Imam Ghazali tells a story. He says that in Basra, in what is today Iraq, there used to be a man, a Muslim, of course, a Muslim who was known as the town drunk. He had a serious drinking problem, and everyone knew about it. The whole town knew that he was the town drunk. Because of that, of course, everyone else being Muslim as well, they couldn't stand him. They thought it was really disgusting. When it came time that he passed away, nobody wanted to go and attend to his janazah, to his funeral. Nobody wanted to deal with it. Nobody would come and help the drunkard wife with his burial or anything of the process that relates to the burial. So the woman, what she ended up doing is she found a way to carry her husband, the drunkard's body, out to a kind of open area outside of Basra, uninhabited land. She took him out there. She was going to try to find a way to bury him herself. At that moment, from around the hills or the small mountains that surround this area where she had taken her husband's body, there used to be a wali, a pious man who lived up in these mountains. And he was kind of somebody who liked retreat, and he wanted to be alone, and he didn't really mix with people. He never came down and mixed with anyone. But when she's there standing with the body of her husband, the wali comes down and he helps her. He bathes the body of the husband, as we are required to do in the Sharia. When someone dies, he gave him the ritual bath. Then he prayed over him. He did the janazah with the wife over the body of the deceased, and then the man was buried. Okay, Subhanallah. When he turned to the woman and he asked her, I was commanded. He had in some sort of vision or something he'd seen that he should go down to make the janazah of this man. Right? And he said, tell me, is there anything good that your husband used to do? We all know, even he knew that he was known as a sinful person, as a drunk man, or somebody who engaged in drinking. And yet he said, tell me, is there something good that your husband used to do? And she said, well, I can think of 3 things that my husband used to do. First was that every night he would come home drunk, out of his senses. He would come home and he would collapse and fall into a drunken stupor. Right? He'd just be dead asleep. And then he would wake up for the morning, for the dawn prayer, and he would wash up and he would go and make salah with everyone else in the masjid. The second thing that I can think of, the wife said, was that when we have children, of course, in the house, but he would always have orphans also living with us in the house. At least there's always orphans with us as well, and he would treat them even better than he would treat his own children. He was very conscious of the rights of the orphaned children, and he would make sure that they would have enough to eat, and they would have clothing, and they would have all their needs taken care of, even more so than his own children, because he was concerned to not short shrift them or make them to be unfair to them or to not be good to them. And the final thing, she said, that I remember about my husband that he would do as a good deed is that when he would be home sleeping in that drunken stupor, he'd fall asleep, he would wake up in the middle of the night at times and he would call out to Allah, "Oh Allah, which corner of hell are you going to put me in?" And he would call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this way, right? Being someone who was so conscious, he knew that he was doing something wrong. He knew that he was doing something that was hated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he made no excuses for it, right? He felt an immense level of remorse, where he would turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the middle of his sleep, in the middle of the night, and he would call out, "Ya Allah, which corner of Jahannam are you going to put me in, this disgusting soul of mine?" So, subhanallah, when I first read this story of Imam Ghazali in Ihya Ulum, I hope, perhaps that you sense, I don't know if I've told it in the way that he, with his blessed pen, the way he wrote it, I don't know if I communicated it in the same way. But it's a very powerful story, and at this, when the wali, it's written in the account by Imam Ghazali, that when that wali from the mountains heard it, he said, "This is why I was commanded to come down and do the prayer, the janazah, the funeral prayer on this man, because I was told that he was someone whose sins had been forgiven." Right? There's sometimes, this person, obviously he wasn't a prophet, he wasn't a messenger, but the pious people, sometimes they will see things in dreams, or they will see things in visions, and he had been shown He should go down to this valley where there will be a woman there, and she will be with the body of someone who is deceased, and make the janazah for them, do the janazah for them, because this is a man who has been forgiven his sins. And so when he heard these three things that the woman recounted of what she could tell were the good deeds of her husband, he said, this is the reason why I was commanded to make the janazah of this man. SubhanAllah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had us hear this story 1,000 years later so that we too could reflect on the seriousness, the serious import and the power and the value of simply feeling bad for the things that we do that are incorrect, that are wrong.